The most profound delusion of the modern era is the belief that peace is something you find. We are told to search for it in quiet retreats, in isolation, or in the artificial silence of a consumerist escape. This is a fatal lie designed to keep you weak. Peace is not a destination. It is a fortress. It is not a state of passive relaxation. It is an act of absolute internal defiance. If your peace depends on the external world being quiet, you do not possess peace. You possess a fragile truce with chaos. The moment the world shifts, the moment a crisis hits, or the moment someone insults your character, your truce shatters, and you are dragged back into the mud of your own reactive emotions. True inner peace is not the absence of a storm. It is the absolute, unshakable calm at the center of it. It is a psychological state so heavily armored that the entire world could burn around you, and your internal pulse would not skip a single beat. It is the realization that your mind is a sovereign kingdom, and you are the sole dictator of its borders. Modern society does not want you calm. The entire matrix of human architecture is explicitly engineered to keep your nervous system in a state of perpetual panic. A stressed mind is highly suggestible. An anxious individual is a perfect consumer. When you are restless, you seek quick fixes, you buy things you do not need, you chase validation from strangers, and you hand over your attention to algorithms engineered to drain your focus for profit. To reclaim your mind from this hyper-reactive trap, you must understand the weaponization of restlessness. Look around you. Every notification, every breaking news headline, and every manufactured social outrage is a deliberate calculated strike against your mental clarity. They want you angry. They want you fearful. They want you constantly looking outward, waiting for the next stimulus to tell you how to feel. The moment you give in, the moment you allow an external event to dictate your internal state, you have signed over your sovereignty. You have given away the remote control to your soul. The first step toward becoming truly unshakable is the absolute execution of the zero-reaction protocol. Most people operate on a primitive, immediate loop. A stimulus occurs, and they instantly react. Someone cuts them off in traffic, and they fly into a rage. Someone leaves a toxic comment on their work, and they spend the entire day defending their ego. This immediacy is the signature behavior of prey. A sovereign individual recognizes that between the stimulus and the response, there is a sacred, silent gap. In that gap lies your absolute freedom. When chaos strikes, you do not react. You observe. You let the event crash against your awareness like a wave hitting a massive granite cliff. The cliff does not argue with the wave. It does not get angry. It simply stands, solid and unmoved, while the water shatters harmlessly against its base and recedes into nothingness. You must develop a cold, analytical curiosity toward your own triggers. When you feel anger rising, when you feel anxiety tightening its grip around your throat, do not fight it. Observe it as if it belongs to someone else. Ask yourself, why am I allowing this temporary external variable to manipulate my internal chemistry? By placing that distance between your core consciousness and your immediate emotions, you render the external world completely powerless. You become a ghost in their machine. They can throw insults, they can create chaos, they can threaten your comfort, but they cannot breach the fortress of your mind because you have refused to grant them entry. This brings us to the brutal law of the internal citadel. You cannot control the wind, you cannot control the terrain, and you cannot control the malice or stupidity of other human beings. The only variable under your absolute jurisdiction is the processing unit inside your own skull. Expecting the world to be fair, kind, or quiet just because you want peace is a form of childish entitlement. The universe is entirely indifferent to your desire for comfort. If you want to survive the absolute friction of human existence without losing your alignment, you must learn the art of radical detachment. Detachment does not mean you stop caring about your goals, your empire, or the people you love. Detachment means you stop tying your fundamental worth and emotional stability to their outcomes. You execute with absolute intensity, but you remain completely unattached to the applause or the criticism that follows. Most psychological suffering is born entirely from the mismatch between reality and your naive expectations. You suffer because you expected people to be loyal, because you expected your plans to work perfectly, or because you expected life to be easy. Amputate your expectations. Accept reality exactly as it presents itself, without layers of emotional drama or victim narratives. When a betrayal happens, do not waste energy asking why. Accept the data point, adjust your boundaries, and keep moving forward in absolute silence. When a project fails, do not mourn the lost time. Reconstruct your strategy from first principles and strike again with cold precision. The man who has nothing to lose emotionally is the most dangerous entity in the room. When you no longer need the world to validate your existence, you become entirely unmanipulable. True internal peace requires the ruthless elimination of mental clutter. We carry inside our heads the opinions of fleeting ghosts, the judgments of people we do not even respect, and the weight of past mistakes that cannot be rewritten. You are actively suffocating your own consciousness with dead weight. A sovereign mind treats its attention as a sacred, limited asset. You must perform a daily audit of what you allow to enter your mental space. If a relationship introduces constant low-level drama, cut it off. If a habit drains your focus and leaves you feeling hollow, destroy it. If a memory serves only to make you feel bitter, bury it. You cannot build an unshakable empire if your foundation is cluttered with trash. Isolation is the great crucible of human sovereignty. If you cannot sit quietly in a dark room for 2 hours with nothing but your own thoughts, you are not a free individual. You are a prisoner running away from your own internal void. Most people jump from distraction to distraction because they are terrified of facing the raw reality of who they are when the external noise stops. They need the television on, they need the music playing, they need the endless scroll, because the silence acts as a violent mirror reflecting their own emptiness. You must lean into that silence. You must make peace with your own solitude until your mind becomes your favorite sanctuary. When you are entirely comfortable being alone, you break the ultimate chain of social slavery. You no longer seek company out of desperation. You only accept it out of high-value selection. We must also confront the illusion of permanence. Every current crisis you face, every intense heartbreak you feel, and every mountain of stress currently weighing down your shoulders is entirely temporary. The human brain is hardwired with a cognitive bias that makes the present season feel eternal. When you are in darkness, your mind convinces you that the light will never return. This is an evolutionary glitch. Look back at the history of your own life. Think of the worst days you have survived, the moments where you felt your world was ending, where the anxiety was absolute, and the pain was blinding. Where are those days now? They are nothing but distant, fading memories. They have been reduced to dust by the unstoppable march of time. Internal peace is the deep, cellular integration of this truth. You look at your current hardships and you realize that this too shall pass. You look at your greatest victories and you realize that they too will fade. This realization doesn't make you cold or cynical. It makes you profoundly stable. You no longer overreact to the highs, and you no longer despair during the lows. You develop the heavy, quiet equilibrium of a mountain. The seasons change, the storms rage, the snow falls, and the sun burns, but the mountain remains exactly where it is, anchored deep into the crust of the earth. Ultimately, weaponized calm is the greatest form of rebellion against a chaotic matrix. The system wants you broken, divided, and easily triggered. When you choose to remain entirely silent, completely expressionless, and profoundly at peace in the face of their provocations, you invert the power dynamic entirely. You force the world to react to you, rather than you reacting to the world. Your silence becomes an aggressive, dominant statement of absolute self-mastery. You are no longer a leaf blown around by the winds of fate. You are the architect of your own awareness. Lock this blueprint into your consciousness. Protect your borders with a ruthless devotion. Build your citadel stone by stone, day by day, habit by habit, until you become an entity that nothing on this earth can shake.